We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob London, and today we are going to be looking at the films released on May 14th, 2010. But before we get into those films, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Taylor Robinson. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm doing good. You know, I'm here. That's about all I got.
You're here. That's fair.
Yep.
Okay. And my co-panelists, how are you guys, Nick and Peter?
Very well, thank you.
I'm here too.
I feel like it's not the start of the show unless Peter and I look each other in the
Right.
eyes, yeah. Something going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon.
You were
Soon.
21st, I won.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's what we were doing?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, let's move on to... We have three films that came out this week. Robin Hood, Just Wright, and Letters to Juliet. So... let's move on to, I think, one that will be a little bit controversial between the two of us.
Between the two of us.
Sorry, four of us.
Who's getting kicked out of the room?
Like, oh, I see how this is. All right.
Let's talk about the 2010 edition of Robin Hood. In the 12th century England, Robin Longstride, played by Russell Crowe, and his band of marauders confront corruption in a local village and lead an uprising against the crown that will forever alter the balance of world power. Directed by Ridley Scott and starring Russell Crowe and Cate Blanchett, this is the 2010 edition of Robin Hood.
I think they write these things just to stitch you up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. I think they do too, yeah.
They knew 10 years from now we're going to have this internet show that we want to fuck around with a little bit.
Let's put the word, what is it?
Something
Marauders
Marauders?
confront corruption.
Yeah,
Confront corruption.
Confront
They're like, how can
corruption.
we make this a tongue twister
Yeah.
for anyone that ever needs to read this?
Yeah.
I like that poster.
I do
I
too.
really
Yeah.
like this poster.
I really like that poster.
It's a Robin Hood poster.
Stoic.
Yeah.
And it's Robin Hood with a very big tinge of Ridley Scott. Like,
Yeah.
I look at that, I'm like, I think I know what I'm getting myself into here.
Yeah, like it's definitely
It's gritty Robin Hood.
yeah. No, really like
Yeah,
this poster.
I don't really have any complaints. I think it's
Wow. A unanimous. That is the
Yeah.
first time we've had
And it's
like,
like,
a
proper-
and out of all the posters, like, and it's got Russell Crowe all over it,
Yeah.
and we're not,
yeah.
All
I mean, I
right.
think it does what it needs to do to advertise the movie you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
So-
like,
for sure.
and I like that this very easily could have been a poster where they just went, let's put all the different heads here.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could
It's
have.
got a
It's
like
got a
apart
pretty
from
big
Russell Crowe and
cast.
Kate Blanchett, you've got a very
you have
big
a cast in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
All
could have
right.
had another one where Maid Marian was like in the background or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, let's talk about.
So who had seen this movie
movie
before?
I had.
Yes.
Everybody except for me.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
I saw this. I'd seen this twice in theaters. I saw this when the day it opened because I was so excited for it. I actually was really looking forward to this movie, and then I saw it again at one of the movie marathon screenings.
Yeah.
With this, getting to the Greek and Kick-Ass again. So
What a
Yeah, I know.
treasure. Wow.
yeah, and
One of
and-
these things is not like the other.
and I can remember both times being disappointed. It's good, it's not great. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I had watched it about 8 years ago, like a while ago, but not, and kind of started to enjoy it a bit more, but it wasn't one of those movies that I go, this is a fantastic film. It's around 3.5 stars for me. Rewatching this, wow. I think this is a fantastic film. I loved every minute of it. This is one of my favorite films of the year. So I
That's
think
pretty cool.
this is between this and She's Out of My League are going back and forth. I don't know which one was
One
yeah.
of those things, not like the other.
Yeah, no. Well, okay. How to Train Your Dragon still number one.
Yeah.
That's not changing until another movie comes out this year.
Gee, I wonder what that could be.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
did
wow.
not realize how much I love this movie until I saw it again. And
Yeah,
we watched the
rewatch.
theatrical. We didn't watch the director's. I still haven't actually seen the director's cut, which
How long is the theatrical cut's the 2 hours, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one I watched as well. Then, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what I watched. Yeah.
what was your thoughts?
I saw this in the cinemas in 2010, and I think because I did that very rookie error of having expectations. So I was immensely disappointed. And it was not a movie that I've revisited since. Because I was disappointed, and I just remember feeling like, oh, this is a bit flat. So rewatching it now, I was like, remember, you didn't like it, so watch it.
Sucking yourself
Well,
up.
basically, being like, remember, like, to not have that thing of like, was it as bad as I, And so rewatching it, I certainly didn't like hate it because I went into it kind of blind because I don't really remember much about it, but also being like, have your expectations in check. So I wasn't, as disappointed, but I also didn't, I didn't love it rewatching it. But there are definitely a lot of things that I appreciated more. I think I completely forgot how impeccably cast this movie is.
Oh god, yeah. Huge
and
cast.
I remember you said that like Oscar Isaac was something that a lot of people had an issue with, whereas like I loved his performance in this.
Yeah.
And I love just how like his opening scene, I'm like, you've got points for me for showing Oscar Isaac's rear end, because who doesn't want a bit of that? Well, Jacob might not, but I think Nick would. So
Depends what kind of mood I'm in.
And yeah, I think like I appreciated that it went for a different view, because obviously we're expecting, Robin Hood to be like the Robin of Locksley that he is in every other story. So I liked that this was not that. And I think he's got, I liked him and Cate Blanchett together. His accent is, not the greatest. But
I feel like that's just Russell Crowe's voice.
Yeah.
I feel like he wasn't putting anything else on. I think he just talks like that all the time.
And I liked all of the behind the scenes stuff where he was like, everyone thought you're too old and too fat for this, and he's like, I will not be too old and too fat. So he got like shredded. And Sienna Miller was his original choice, and then because they rewrote it, they were like, you're too young, and they got Cate Blanchett. And I was like, and
good choice.
but like nothing against Sienna Miller, but like I couldn't see her in this
at all.
And I think it would have changed drastically the dynamic of the movie. Like I think I might have pictured her being in a more light-hearted sort of version, like almost
a bit
like
more joyous version.
I think you put her in pretty much any other adaptation of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Even Prince of Thieves.
Like because most of them go for the younger hero.
Yes.
They go for the more like tomfoolery kind of
Yeah.
like he
Like
gets
the whole-
into trouble, but it's not,
like the giving to like taking from the rich, giving to the poor.
Yeah.
Like this really went for like a far more serious.
This is a political drama.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is. It's 100% a political drama, and we were talking a little bit earlier about how it's sort of like what Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones. It's focusing on a time in history where people were literally warring over lands and control over countries, and that's its major focus. And I'm same as Pete. I saw it at the movies when it came out, and I was like, it was all right. And then I watched it again. I probably just feel the exact same. I think there's 30 minutes of this movie that are really cool, and it's every action scene. I think Ridley Scott he's amazing at action. There's nothing you can do wrong. But this is generally the problem I have with most Ridley Scott movies, is that it's 30 minutes of high octane excitement and then another 2 hours of very just sometimes uninteresting, sometimes interesting, but most of the time just bland story and dialogue and characters. I just think this movie just feels bland in its story, and then with a drabby color palette to go with it, where you kind of like there's nothing exciting to look at color-wise in the film. If they had done that, I would then go, okay, well that doesn't match the story. So this movie can't win me over in either one of those regards. But I don't know, I just felt like
this
I was
isn't your theme park bright color movie, Nick.
Give me more theme park movies.
I mean, Kevin Durant was like shredded up.
Kevin Durant is shredded, but then I
Didn't-
was watching it and I'm like, I just can't see he
Right,
was
yeah.
anything outside of like Resident Evil. Oh, Kevin Durant.
I think at some points like when they went for humor, I was like, I don't feel like it fit with the overall tone of the film. I think sometimes it felt like this is kind of what you want us to be, but we want to be a more serious movie. I think sometimes that just threw it out for me.
I think we should throw out the co-panelists for this episode and tell them to leave, because they clearly have bad opinions on this movie. And I don't say that very often about people because I like opinions, but no. Absolutely not. This is exactly what Robin Hood should be, at least to make it interesting, where it's not just throwing money around because the rich people are bad and tomfoolery, like they fucking gave us in the fucking Taron Egerton piece of shit, where they were like, oh, you want fun and modern and you want the literal opening to be a storybook opening where I explain to you
parkour scene.
like,
I loved that in that movie, how it was like something about history doesn't matter, his name doesn't matter. We're like, good, because this movie doesn't matter either.
That's what they open.
Like,
But-
at least
but-
like this movie has a fucking identity.
What I want to say is I think that if you go into this and you want Robin Hood Men in Tights, that's not what you're gonna get. Like, you're not gonna get the fun, you're not gonna get the lighthearted. You're gonna get, in my opinion, what Robin Hood should be. These people who have land stolen from them, who are taxed out the fucking ass, who like don't have any say, any power, keep getting just completely shafted in every possible way. They're not going to want someone who just runs around and is like, oh, but this is super fun. They're going to be like, this is bullshit. And if this older gentleman who clearly has lived through a lot and who knows what the hell is going on and who has a past behind him and who is going to step up and be like, you know what? We're not having this. And it's very political, and as it would be, and it's very much, well, why is this way? And how is this happening? And how can we fix it? And how is it affecting people actually, not where you're just seeing whatever it is that people want Robin Hood to be most of the time. I think this is grounded in what it actually would be.
Something I love about this movie is you're saying that the drama and the story like bores you, that you think it's bland and dull.
That's my favorite part.
That was the bit that I would like 10 years ago. Yes, it did. I was bored out of my brains, and that's where I was like, it's slow, it's dull, now I was eating it all up. I actually wanted more of it. Like,
I wanted the sequel so bad.
After watching this, I'm going, oh, I needed a sequel to this. Like, just I would have loved to have seen.
Because that's when you get the real Robin Hood, is in the sequel.
That
people wanted.
This is the
movie setting up the origin, essentially the origin story of Robin Hood. However, it's grounding it in a reality that is, no, this is we are showing you the political landscape that would have caused the need for a Robin Hood, or for the need for someone of this nature. And I really liked a lot of the scenes in the castles where they're talking about taxation. They're talking about, no, this is what we need you to do. This is, you've got to pay for these wars. He has wasted money on wars that no one wants. That, like, I really liked a lot of these conversations and a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the back and forth these characters had that I thought was really well handled. The humor, for me, I get where you're saying that the humor felt out of place. For me, they gave the humor to the three characters who should have humor, which is Little John, Will Scarlet, and they're the three that should have the humor. And I think for them it worked.
Yeah. There's like Kate Blanchett when I think she's like asking him to come to bed and says it in a please come to bed with me because we have to keep appearances.
Yeah.
I don't know, that to me, that was the sort of stuff that I was like, this is where it's trying to be almost like I don't know, that sort of line didn't feel like something she would say. I don't know, because she's so against it.
I thought that worked as just their relationship was just the budding relationship between them. I think you're right. Sienna Miller could never have played this character. Like, it would never have worked. And that's not against her. That's more the character who they have created for Marion you needed someone like Kate Blanchett.
Because it's weird how they were saying like, oh, we rewrote it so the character became older, but you're like, but Russell Crowe was always involved. So it's like, so I don't know how you had, I don't know what you had as Maid Marian, like, unless the original Robin of Locksley was a younger man. So unless they did that, but it was weird to be like, Russell Crowe was always the person you had as Robin Hood. So I don't know where you shifted everything to have, because it was Sienna Miller, Rachel Weisz, and Kate Blanchett were the three choices. And Rachel Weisz didn't end up taking it because Kate Blanchett said yes first. Like, Rachel Weisz is third. And I'm like, it's just weird how they're
a weird three actresses that you'd be like, they're not
Like I could Rachel Weisz. I
That
could
maybe,
see
yeah.
it. Yeah, but yeah, Sienna Miller and then Kate Blanchett's like that's weird. So I don't know how they originally envisioned this story.
I really love the whole way that they handle England and France as well, like the conflict between them, and that Godfrey's the traitor.
Yeah.
There's a lot that I really love. The opening half an hour where we're learning Robin's backstory as he's an archer, and the scene where he has to tell the king the truth, and then
I like
the
that
king
scene,
goes, "No, oh great, you told me the truth. Thank you. You're an idiot for telling me the truth because you don't tell a king the truth." I love all of that, and I think it works really well. And
it gives you a real reason for him to be just like, you know what, like,
I'm done.
None of us look out for each other. Like, no one cares. Like, why am I gonna stay here and do this?
And it also does bring about the fact that you're like, oh, I'm not actually sure who's safe in this movie as well. Like, there are definitely bits of it that I did appreciate. Yeah.
I was surprised because after watching this movie, like, this was the first time I had seen it, but obviously I had heard people talk about it before this, and I don't understand where the disconnect is coming from. Like, why people aren't connecting to it, because I think it's a very smart movie. I think it's cast very well. I think the pacing and the tone is really good, and I think it's a version of Robin Hood that we don't get to see all the time. So I just don't get why there's not a connect with people, because, you know, we don't want the machine that keeps giving us the same Robin Hood, but then when we get a different one, people are like, this isn't my Robin Hood. This is...
I think it was more like, I think this movie was advertised to be what people wanted
expected
it to be. And admittedly, I went into it.
But that's not the...
Yeah.
That's the audience's fault.
Yeah,
that's on the
sure.
audience for not being able to...
Admittedly, I went into this thinking it was going to be more of an action... Like, I've got nothing against the political side of things, but they did hype up this to be an action movie as well, and you sort of take in a Ridley Scott action movie, you know. So I think that was where there was just the...
I think that's another aspect of it that not necessarily disappointed me, but the reason I found it so dreary is because I've seen movies like Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven, Ridley Scott movies where he's done this sort of thing before, and I've watched it and been totally in awe of what I've seen, and then I'm like, I don't think this movie's terrible. I was just bored. I was just like, I'm very uninterested in what's happening. I was watching it. I felt like you could completely take the name Robin Hood out of it and just have this as a movie with a completely different set. Same characters doing the same things, and you didn't have to make it a Robin Hood.
But then why would people go? But then why would people go see it?
Exactly. No, and that's it. I get that. And but I'm just like, I don't care that this is Robin Hood. That's how I felt watching it. I was like, it could be anyone, and I would still feel the same way. So I don't know.
To me, I think that this film does something that I wish more films that are clearly the start of a trilogy would do, which is it told a complete story. It tells from start to finish. It tells its own story of, no, this is the origin of Robin Hood. This is about how Robin Hood becomes how this man becomes the legend of Robin Hood. But it still leaves clearly enough story for you to go, okay, so the sequel was clearly going to be about the Sheriff of Nottingham. He was going to take on Matthew McFadden, as Sheriff of Nottingham, and then the third one was going to be Prince John. That was going to be the three films, and that him ultimately becoming whatever. I like that you get the complete story, but then you also get the hints of the sequel, and that's something that I wish more films that are clearly like this would do.
You don't get to the end and go, well, that's not an ending.
It's one of those ones where they clearly were like, we have sequel idea, but we're also not so optimistic that we're going to make this because we expect a sequel. Like, they're at least smart enough to be like, this is its own thing, and if we don't get to have the second one, we've still closed this story off, which is smart, because there are a lot of movies that go, we're going to make this as the first in three because we're going to get a sequel. You're like, nah.
Looking at you, the Mortal Instruments. Looking at you.
And that Alita for me. Oh, anyway. I love the cast. I think the cast of this does
this
an
cast
incredible
is
job.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
and it's also like, and a lot of them are not like, at this point, they weren't the names that they are now.
Like Leah, she's
Leah Seydoux,
she's in she's a fairly minor character in this, and I forgot that she was in this
I love
completely.
that Mark Addy's in this as well. I
Yeah,
love
like
that.
Like Mark Addy's like
As
when you,
Friar Tuck
he's
is-
like that's that's perfect.
that works for
casting.
him. I mean, even Oscar Isaac, like he hadn't done Drive. He'd not really done anything
No,
yet. Like this was
it's-
really his first big movie, and I think
What
he's
a way to
fantastic.
come in
What an
swinging.
entrance, right?
What a
I
way to
think he
come in
is
swinging.
Fantastic in this. I think he is absolutely fantastic.
He is great in every possible
Yeah.
definition
Yeah.
of the word in this movie.
Every inch is great.
Yes.
Well, guys, I think that's Robin Hood. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I think you should absolutely watch
Yeah,
it.
this is, I think, one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
I know what's coming up this year, but I will be shocked if it's not in my top 10. Just because I loved this movie and I can rewatch. I'm now really glad I bought it on 4K because I can watch it over and
Yeah.
over again. Clearly a mixed bag for you guys
Yeah,
more.
it's like a take it or leave it with me. If you're going to enjoy it, you're going to enjoy it, and if not. But how good is it that people can have different opinions about movies and not want to fucking murder each other?
I only threatened to
Wow.
throw them off the panel one time.
I know.
But that's it. You get one, and
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Yeah, and you've used it on good. So
No, this is my show, so I decide how many I get.
That's all right.
But the
There are-
difference is I'm not going to actually throw
Throw
you
you-
off the panel. So
And there's many movies coming up where we're going to be
Yeah.
very much
And-
agreeing. So it's
Yeah.
okay.
and you did it to our faces, not behind a computer screen on a keyboard. What the fuck? People do that.
and
like,
we're still
res-
going to talk to each other after this.
like
What?
we have like
Is this real life?
there's this weird thing called respect.
What? Get the fuck
is that
out
our
of here.
is that our Dr. Cop Out word of the week? Respect.
Respect. Kids, here's my word of the week.
Well,
What's next?
with that, I think let's move on to our next movie. We have Letters to Juliet.
What a segue.
Sophie dreams of becoming a writer and travels to Verona, Italy, where she meets the secretaries of Juliet. Directed by Gary Winnick and starring Amanda Seyfried and Vanessa Redgrave. This is Letters to Juliet.
So
Let's-
basically what you're saying is all I have to do to become a successful writer is go to Verona.
Right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
I
But just remember to fact check.
Okay, so this poster. That does not look like Amanda Seyfried's face to me.
No, not at all.
They've,
Oh yeah,
to
now
me,
you pointed it out actually.
to
yeah.
me, that's like pretty much the how to lose a guy in 10 days pose.
But like her whole body language is
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
He's
Like that's
very pushed to the side.
He's very
like
like,
they're like we just need his face.
yeah.
But
that's
like the way
literally-
she's standing
yeah.
is like
super awkward.
And
Like,
yeah.
Like she's holding the basket weirdly.
Yep.
And
That would hurt
also
your wrist,
her
yeah.
other like I know that her other arm is on the other side of her body, but it's also a case of like there's not
it
even
could have
the-
been here.
like there's
or,
not the
like-
illusion that she has another arm.
And then something's going on with her chest that I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it's
like what?
it's billowing.
It looks weird because from that angle, her head should be tilted forward a little bit more, but because it's so far back, it's kind of like she's got.
Or
a
like she could at
scoliosis
least be
thing
like
going on.
resting it on his
Yeah.
upper back.
I don't
or
know what's
something.
going on with
But
that
like
pose.
I love the Vanessa Redgrave.
Yeah,
I do
Franco,
love that.
I love
Franco,
the-
Franco Nero.
Yeah, the spoiler
Yeah.
on the poster.
Oh my god! Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I don't know, but I think
but
that's
if you
the-
go in not really knowing
No.
what the movie's about, it's not a
It's
spoiler.
not a
No,
spoiler.
that's true. That's
Um,
very true.
But,
Like,
but I
think
do.
that's
I
a
think
really-
no idea what this
I think
movie's
it's
about.
really artistic
yeah,
the way they
I think
choose.
that's a
they
really
chose
beautiful
to do
little
that.
image. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's another poster too that they use as the IMDb poster. That one, and that's the one that I associate with as the main.
That's
poster.
the one I associate
Ah.
with too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Which
yeah.
that one, and I
That's the
think that
DVD
one's
cover here, I
that's
think,
nice.
so.
I think that one is nicer. Yeah, I
it
definitely.
actually looks like her too.
I know. Imagine that.
Apple posters.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
the
does.
description is fine.
It's
I
Yeah.
guess.
It's the movie.
It's
Yeah.
like it's not really.
It's a description.
But it's also
It's-
it's
yeah.
like really pulling on the fact that this ends up being like a
road movie.
yeah,
Like
and
it's a road trip
and a
movie.
romantic
yeah.
comedy for
But
her, and she has a
yeah.
terrible partner.
All right, let's
So-
talk about this.
I actually really like this movie, and not just like, you know, where I give breaks to like When in Rome and like that kind of stuff. Like, I actually really think this is a fun movie. Like, I think the humor is really well used. There are a lot of genuinely funny, charming moments in this movie. I think that even though the story is pretty beat for beat rom-com, that it's it just takes you on enough of a journey, and there's enough chemistry between the two female characters that that you're like, this is fun.
Yeah.
As far as the romantic relationship itself actually goes, which I'm kind of glad it's actually the side story almost.
This movie works as Amanda Seyfried helping Vanessa Redgrave.
Yes.
That story is beautiful.
It's very sweet.
But yeah, Amanda Seyfried's initial relationship with Gael Garcia Bernal is terrible because he's
the worst.
He's the worst.
See, this is funny. I watched this last night with my partner, and she said the same thing. And I disagreed initially. And I didn't say he was a good person before everyone fucking ats me. I don't even have Twitter, so you can't at me. And so we...
I'm still at you on this.
Shit. And I was like, I initially just said, well, they're both just two people who are super passionate about what they do, and their lives just don't
Which is true.
collide.
Yeah.
Which is
So
true.
it doesn't make him a
Yes.
bad person. He doesn't necessarily make good of the situation because he's like, oh yeah, we can go to Verona. I can definitely like do all my work stuff. But that's just someone who's passionate about something else than her. And then I'm watching it the whole time. I'm like, she's not interested from the start, which is obviously because their lives. So that's nothing wrong with what she wants. So I'm like, go, like leave. Like if this movie started with their breakup, I'd be like, this makes sense, but it doesn't. And I was so frustrated by that. I was because I was like, this, like, I already know you guys right from this opening scene are not going to last. So don't hold on to that thread.
But from the outside, that's easy to say. When you've been in a relationship for a long time and you're in the motion of it and you're like, this is comfortable and we're already here.
No, fair.
Like what?
Fair.
Like unless there's a big explosive like.
It was just frustrating to watch as an audience
No,
because
I
I'm
get
just
that.
like, just
Well,
fucking leave each other.
It's because they...
I was so invested.
It's because they haven't done the usual thing where like you see them together and like there's the possibility of happiness for them. Like from the moment that she comes into the kitchen, you can very much tell that he is like, I'm all about my business and you're going to be secondary to me. Whereas most other movies might have them be together and then like the business thing comes up and then he starts to pivot towards it. Whereas from the get-go, it was always like...
And they make it quite obvious as well because when she walks in, he wants that validation from her too. So you kind of get why he's still with her because she's obviously like, oh, you are doing a great job, which he is. So you kind of make sense why she's still wanting to be with her.
She's like his little cheerleader.
Yes.
But he doesn't give any of
He
it
doesn't
back
give it
to
back.
her.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And then you can say vice versa as well because obviously she wants to become a writer so bad that she would do anything to do it, and you've got to respect that.
But
too,
you also,
because that's
but you don't
what he's
see,
doing, so
but you don't see
I
any
get
of
it.
his support for her.
And that's what I think. I think you're right in that, where
Yeah.
if we saw in those scenes where she's talking about, I want to be a writer, if he was like supporting her there.
But that's why he comes off as more of the assholes because he
Yeah,
never
and
tries to
I
be.
totally get that. I totally get
And that's what I think makes it him so much more frustrating than most of this version.
Of most douchey boyfriends who are like, just leave him. Like, we know you're going to end up with insert handsome man here, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I don't know about
As soon
that.
as he walked in and spoke, I was like,
But
fuck
you're
out of this
talking the
movie.
general trope.
I'm talking about the thing where it's like you have like
fair.
Matthew McConaughey is who you're going to end up with, and you're like, but early 2000 Bradley Cooper is the dude. Like that's the thing. They always make this character worse to end up with this guy.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And
of course.
You're right. But here he was just especially annoying. And
Which is frustrating because Gael Garcia Bernal can be immensely charming.
Oh, and he was having a fucking blast in this movie. I don't want to make any allegations, but he seemed like he was hopped up on something because he is all over the place in this movie. And I loved it. It was like infectious. I was like, this guy's just so happy. I'm like, he's passionate. But the movie's not about him, so it's okay.
I also had a really great time with this. I think it's a good movie. Like I don't think it's a fantastic, wonderful, one of the best movies. You're right that Vanessa Redgrave and Amanda Seyfried, their story is filled with so much sweetness and just it makes you just smile.
It's
I think
super
the script.
wholesome.
I think the script has enough funny moments to get you through. I think there are some genuinely funny moments and some genuinely funny one-liners that it made me go, you know what? I enjoyed this. Like, I can actually recommend it. I think it's a funny movie and I think it's cute. And it's sweet to recommend to people go, that relationship between there, and also I think because Redgrave is so genuine and so sweet in her performance, like there's not a hint of cynicism or of this. I think that helps it a lot. There's I'm just going on an adventure.
Well, that's it, because in like another movie, because she's being dragged to find the man who wrote the letters, another movie she might get to the point of being like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like we're not getting to where she could just say, I wrote this letter so long ago, I don't want, this is enough. But she is like so hopeful for love and that happy ending that she's like, I want to go on this journey with you.
Another movie, she's the son. It's their personality has swapped. Yeah. She's the one going, he's dragging me, I don't want to do this. I like in another movie, in a badly written movie, that's the swap. And I think what makes this work so well is it's just this genuine, like, no, she's just going for a search for love. And I think that helps elevate this movie a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I think it's sweet. I think it's funny. As much as I think they could have massively upgraded for the male lead in the movie.
I don't like Christopher.
Dude,
I get that he's meant to be like, the stuffy Brit being played by an Australian. It's like Yvonne Strahovski all over it. But yeah, like he's just too against it from the get-go. So it's like, I know that they're going to end up together, but I don't think the way that he talks to her and treats her, I don't think Amanda Seyfried would stand for it.
I didn't buy it. When they were in love by the end, I was like, I don't buy this. But I didn't care about it by that point because I was more intrigued.
I want Vanessa Redgrave to get with her.
Yeah, exactly.
With her, man.
That's like the scene where they finally get to the correct Lorenzo, and it's the two sons who are like, I'm Lorenzo.
I'm Lorenzo.
And
I
no, we're here for Lorenzo. It's like, come here. He's like, I'm Lorenzo.
I personally get a kick out of that movie because my step family on my stepdad's side is Italian, and my brother and my stepdad and all the way up is Andrew James Marmo, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm like, this is my house. Where's Andrew? I'm Andrew.
No, the other Andrew.
Yeah.
I thought it being set in Italy was a lot of fun too, and especially when she first is in with the secretaries of Juliet, and it's, I can't remember which character, but it wasn't one of the secretaries, but it was the mum that she initially talks to. And she's like grilling her basically about being American. She's like, but I have a fiance. He's like, you're in love. And it was just like straight away. It's just like
and like
food and stuff.
I love that. Like the secretaries of Juliet. I was like, that's a whole movie.
I know. That would be
I think that is so interesting. Like I think that's so interesting. I think it's so great.
Such varied characters.
The only because I don't really have a lot of problems with this movie just because I think it's fun and I don't dig that deep into it.
Yeah. This is not one that you look for.
But the ending is a little bit like, I think I would prefer it if they were like, yeah, like I broke up with my fiance and like I'm interested in you, rather than being like, I'm in love with you, and
like when they both say I love you, I was like,
do you count the ending starting when Taylor Swift's love story begins?
Yes. Yes, I do, because that is the jam.
I was so angry at myself when that came on. I was genuinely surprised, and I was like, why am I surprised that probably the hit song around this time was in a movie that's literally about
the letters of Juliet?
Yeah, I was like, and they're like, they got a song where it's
I know.
like they mentioned
I hated myself for how surprised I was. I was just, I couldn't. I was
and
like,
the one thing that I did really like, as much as the ending when they say they love each other, you're like, okay. But I did love that they flipped the, like, when they're kissing on the ground, it's like she's the one holding him up.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of love, like,
she's doing the heavy lifting in this movie, so I'm not shocked.
Like, I don't know, like, I kind of just love that it's like she's the one that's like, I'm gonna be carrying this.
I love when they kiss at the end, the last shot of the movie, and everyone starts walking over, and it's like, what's going on here? And they're just in the middle of the fucking.
The zoom out's my favorite.
CGI lens, all those CGI trees.
You're right though. It's not one that you look.
So fun.
It is, yeah. It's not one that you look much deep into. It's just it's a
Don't
cute
look
movie.
as deep as the IMDb trivia page.
Oh my god. The IMDb
Dr.
trivia.
Cop Out Facts.
Dr. Cop Out
Tell-
Facts.
because
Sorry.
this is just the.
I love-
It's such a stupid story.
I love user-based trivia because
Because we could all contribute.
can we
this
get
sort of
everyone?
stuff.
It's IMDb trivia is Wikipedia. It's literally is, and someone had written that. So Amanda Seyfried's character is a fact checker in this film, and in the beginning she's fact checking the famous picture at the end of World War II, which is the sailor kissing the lady in Times
Square. Yeah.
and then her job to like validate like everything that's happening in the photo. And then one of the IMDb trivia notes was, the character of Sophie actually isn't as good of a fact checker as you think she is, because this, and he just lists all this informational stuff about the photo and about how it wouldn't be the case. And I was like, that's not
Like,
what
it's like this wasn't a consensual kiss. He just grabbed her and kissed her, and you're like, but that's like what she finds out, that it was a spontaneous kiss.
It was a spontaneous kiss.
So it's like,
Yeah.
therefore,
So it is genuine.
It is genuine.
Like, just because it
just because like
wasn't
she,
consensual
Yeah.
doesn't mean it wasn't genuinely
Yeah, that's what I hear,
spontaneous.
yeah.
you
Like,
know, like ugh.
Sophie might not be as good of a fact checker after all. The famous World War II Times Square kiss between the nurse and the sailor was not a love gesture, as the two were perfect strangers. It wasn't even
I
consensual.
was like, that's
the meaning of
I was like,
spontaneous.
yeah, and I was like, that's what every kiss. The first time you do it to someone is
spontaneous.
Is spontaneous, and it's like, and
unless you literally
unless
say,
you go,
"Can I kiss you?"
also,
which
the
is also
fact-
when someone says that, you'd be like, oh no.
Also, that
Gross.
I would love that you've watched the first 5 minutes of this movie and gone, wait a second, what the fuck?
Like, oh, I'm gonna be watching you like a hawk, Amanda Seyfried.
God damn it.
Do these
So
people
that's
even,
led us to Juliet.
These people even know anything about Italy? Jesus.
Oh, some people have way too much time on it.
But also, and also, it like it was filmed over there.
Yes,
believe
there was
so,
actually
yes.
another piece of IMDb trivia. It was the first time they've ever shut down that wall to the public.
Because it does like it's a very, very pretty movie.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it is.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you just want a
it's
fun
sweet.
like,
yeah,
it's fun.
yeah.
If you
It's
just want
sweet.
to
It's a nice movie.
switch your brain off for 90 minutes and just enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like really just go, Vanessa Redgrave and Amanda Seyfried, their relationship will get
So
you
good.
through any of the man bullshit that it is.
Exactly. Yes.
That's just a life thing as well. In general, if you want to just get through some man bullshit, which there's a lot of.
I mean,
It's a good movie.
looks around me. What choice do I have?
Sleeping on the couch again tonight.
I love that you didn't say a thing.
Yeah.
That whole, and it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to break the fucking punishment of this.
All right, let's move on to the last film from this week, and we have Just Right. A physical therapist falls for the basketball player she is helping recover from a career-threatening injury. Starring Queen Latifah, Common, and Paula Patton.
I think this is cute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
actually
like-
quite sweet, yeah.
That's just a nice
Like
post.
it,
nice.
it sums up the fact that Queen Latifah and Common have
Good chemistry,
great
yeah.
chemistry in this
That
movie.
Oh,
jacket
they're
looks
so
fucking
good.
She,
I know.
right?
Dude, that looks like genuine smiles
Yeah,
and
it
like
does.
I'm so about like I know I just gave shit to a poster that used a white background, but like but this is actually doesn't
It
bother
works.
me.
Yeah,
No, it's-
I think it's because like I don't know, maybe
It's not just people standing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's because
Yeah.
it's like and it's like it looks like it's capturing a genuine moment
Yeah.
between
Yes.
two
Yeah.
people that are just like, we're not giving a fuck about the rest of the world right now. We are totally into each other.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep.
Yeah, I like
Go
this
for
poster.
it.
We've had a
When-
couple of good ones.
Yeah.
When we initially said that this was a film we were going to watch, and I had never seen this before, not in a million years could you have told me that out of the 3 films we watched this week, this was the one I had the most fun watching.
Wasn't mine, but okay.
I really enjoyed.
I
this
mean,
film.
I actually
I liked
it
it,
wasn't
yeah.
my favorite of the week, but I had so much fun with
Like,
this
it's
movie,
so
and it's
fun.
so
It's
good.
really
It's
fun.
actually pretty.
Yeah. Like I was like the
good.
script, like in typical romantic comedy fashion, the script is like it's not great.
Oh no,
But-
this movie's not a great
but
movie.
also-
I'm not trying to say that.
But this movie,
it's not my Robin Hood of the year.
but this movie works. Like Queen Latifah
So fun.
is
so
she has,
charismatic.
yeah, she has just
So
there's
much
so
charisma.
much like she just elevates this beyond what it should have been.
She's having a blast doing it as well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much fun.
And it helps that like her and Common have their chemistry.
They have
I
some
was
really good
like,
chemistry, yeah.
the first thing they meet, as much as it's like a very famous basketballer would not be.
I literally put that in the group chat where I was like, he's putting gas in
Yeah.
his own car, driving his own
And
car.
it's like it's meant to give off the fact that he's like, you know, the relatable celebrity. But regardless of that,
that scene is so good.
their scenes like when they first meet, you're just like,
They click.
I believe
Instantly.
all of that.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
and as much as she like knows about cars and stuff, it never comes off like she's the tomboy or she's like, you know, rough around the edges. Like, it's just a case of she's just a fan of basketball who knows her way around stuff. And she's just like this, I'm so happy to meet you, but not as like a fangirl.
Yeah,
it's just like, I just really respect.
Just talking to you is so
Yeah.
cool because
And I like that he's also not like, he's like, oh yeah, you just want to talk to me as
a person.
a person,
yeah.
you know? Yeah.
I really like the idea behind this movie as well because it's not your typical rom-com story. Like, yeah, they obviously have one of those like very coincidental ways that they meet each other, but the story of like sports rehabilitation and her
was gonna
being
say,
the one that
yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
They don't make some bullshit way from like when they first meet for them to keep continuing to see each other, because we establish before they even meet that she is into physical rehabilitation.
Yep.
Which, like I said, it's not something that's ever been really touched in a film before. So it's
And
cool.
I like the way that they actually made her be the one to stay, where
Yes.
she's
Yeah.
just so jealous of the actual one. She's like, no, I'm going to get my friend who there's nothing that will happen there.
I
And then,
but that scene
did
was
love that.
hilarious. I'm like,
I did
I've
think
had
that-
some rehab stuff done before for sport injuries, and I've never had anyone, a physical therapist, man or woman, mount me in any way, shape, or form to stretch my body like that.
To be
So,
fair, you're not a famous
I
basketball
don't look
player.
like Common.
Okay, so that's the other thing that when I started watching this, I went, okay, so Common is not a basketballer. Like, clearly,
He's
like, not a basketball
he's about
player.
6 inches too short to be
And
a basketball player.
you'd put it in the chat, and I hadn't watched the movie yet, and then watching it, and the first like movement he does,
Yeah.
the first play he does, I was like, ooh, you have no free flowing basketball talent.
Like,
And, but then
Like,
there's a
bless him for
moment.
trying.
There's a moment like at the end of that first like sequence where we see him playing basketball.
Yeah.
And he's standing next to the reporter, and the reporter's like 4 inches taller than him, and you're just like, this is.
And
a
you're a star shooter. Like,
Yeah.
you are like.
yeah, I was like, "Are you fucking Steve Nash or something? Like, what the fuck?"
like that's not to take away from the movie. I just thought
No,
it was
no, I
funny.
just
Like,
thought it was
just
funny.
funny.
It's so.
I like this movie. I thought it was sweet and charming. Like they worked really well. I remember about the first half hour is where I've got huge issues. Like, not huge issues, but that's the weakest part of the movie for me, is that first half hour, because you know where it's where it's going as soon as Paula Patton turns up, and then as soon as he ends up with Paula Patton, you're like, okay, that's where this movie's going.
Initially, like, I didn't hate Paula Patton initially.
No.
Because
No.
you get that, you're like, okay, she is that material type.
Yeah.
And
I love that she is planning out a life
Like, yeah.
for herself to be just a basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, she's not
And-
like physically
Yeah.
planning it.
Yeah.
out.
And like
It's
her
very funny.
friendship with Queen Latifah it's like, it seems believable, you
Yeah.
know? And I did actually laugh when Common comes over to visit them and Paula Patton's upstairs and she's like, you need to get down here. And Paula Patton like gets herself ready and then comes downstairs and she's like, oh. what are you
Yeah,
doing?"
yeah.
I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
But then when her character progresses to be this nasty bitch and
Yeah,
like even
where you're like, but you know what? And it's funny because she's been that same person the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when it gets to that point of like where she literally says, his career is over and I don't want to be the wife of a nobody.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so you're actually
No,
that
yeah,
bad
you're
of a,
that.
like,
Yeah.
you're really that person.
Yeah, and like I think it's like in almost any other movie, you'd almost have the sports therapist that Queen, like not saying played by Queen Latifah, but like you'd almost have the sports therapist being the reason that the main girlfriend would be jealous.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like that they went, no, the sports therapist is our hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the girlfriend, who in any other movie would probably be slightly rewritten to be nicer. Like, I like that the girlfriend is the one that you're like, no, we don't want you with him.
Yeah.
As much as she plays it off to be, this is who I am, and I'm like different from all the other girls, and you're like, but you're not.
Yeah, I had a real issue with Paula. Like, Paula really drove me crazy. Like, she plays it really well. Like,
Yeah.
she's great. The character is, you're right. It's someone you are just meant to hate.
Yeah.
Because, and what I think annoyed me was how the second act handled her. I think, the ending handled her.
Like
Yeah,
how she
comes
like
back.
does like a full 360 and is like, it's okay.
And I'm like,
I think
there's no way.
The way Common handles it, I think there's no way, no guy in their right mind would ever do that.
Like as in accept her back initially.
Not after clearly, accept her back after. Oh no, she's clearly only into me because I won that game.
Yeah.
If you have her come back before that game, maybe it's believable, but then it wouldn't work for her character.
Yeah.
And then I also have real issues at the end of how they basically.
It's
they
not
don't
necessarily a happy.
No, but they don't villainize. Like, she's not a nice person.
No,
like,
she's
and then
not.
they just redeem her.
By
Kind of. Like, it's like
by her saying, I'm okay with
I get
you
it. Like,
being it's like, well, yeah.
you've been an awful human being this entire movie. Why? Like, there's issues I have there just because it's one of those. It's a trope that you write a character who is a despicable human being, and then you redeem them with just so much ease.
Yeah.
Of just
You'd be
redeemed.
like, just commit to it and just have them be terrible, and that way when we say goodbye to them in the movie, we're like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's happier than trying to redeem everything.
Yeah.
It's happier for you as the audience. Anyway.
I also felt the actual ending shot to me was super awkward.
It just
Like
ends.
how
It's
he's
sort of,
like he says, she's like, you had a good game, and he's like, that's because I had a good like
therapist or
therapist or something,
whatever, yeah.
and then she's like, oh, and then it just
cuts.
cuts off, and I was like, it just felt. Yeah, it just didn't feel as like this isn't like a definitive.
You know that platonic respect. I love when movies end with that.
Well, that's what it was. Yeah, it was like it just like the credits started, it zooms out,
There's
the song,
nothing
like
more
the Queen
romantic
Latifah
than
song starts,
platonic
and I was like,
respect.
oh, okay, this is it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I don't know. It's
there were little things that I was like, that doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But because Queen Latifah and Common are so good together,
That's the main
you're just
draw
like,
of
you
this
know
movie,
what?
yeah.
That scene when he plays the piano, I was that is just
When
and she
freaking
starts
Paula
singing
Patton
along.
goes in and she's like, can I shut the door? And I
Yeah.
was like,
that was,
wow.
Yeah.
but
And you could
that's,
tell like he
yeah.
was just like, Queen
Sure.
Latifah doesn't do that.
but that's again like that's a really nice, sweet moment
Yeah.
in between the two of them, and I think that's again, it's like Juliet. It's just filled with sweet, nice moments with good chemistry. That it's using 1,001 tropes.
Yeah.
From the second that the proposal happens, I went, oh, okay, cool. I know exactly where this movie's going.
But it's like proof that you have two leads that have great chemistry and can carry a movie. It changes the dynamic of the trope. Like, you can be like, I know where this is going. I expect this to happen, but you're sort of just like, but I'm going to forgive it because
you two work so
they
well.
work so
But
well together.
I don't even necessarily think tropes are a bad thing though, because that's the reason why a lot of these movies are loved the way that they're loved. Is because you like this, and this happening.
Yeah.
That's why it's a trope, because you know where it's going. It's whether you can execute it well enough or not for people to go, I knew that where this was going, but that's why I wanted to see the movie in the first place.
Yeah.
Did they do it well? And I think this movie does enough well where you go, like I knew what they were planning to do, but I had a lot of fun watching them do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is one of the better romantic
yeah,
comedies
yeah.
that we've seen this year
Oh,
so
for
far.
sure, yeah.
Definitely.
It's just enjoyable. It's just
And it was
fun.
like, and I don't remember it coming to Australian cinemas.
I don't think it did.
No, I think we got
I think
straight
this.
to
I think this
DVD.
was another one of those ones where they were like, urban audiences, it won't translate to Australian audiences. It'd be like, it's a romantic comedy.
Everyone.
no one
was-
here,
I was
no one in Australia has
But
ever
sure.
heard of basketball,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
You guys
Give
don't
us-
know what basketball is?
Yeah, give us "I Love You Too" instead. Answer that.
We don't even love our own romantic comedies.
Well, guys,
I just want to say Steve Nash was in this movie. Shout out to the Arizona Suns basketball team. I literally screamed at the TV. Like, there's a shot
She
of them
did.
playing the Suns, and Steve Nash, like, shoots the ball, and I was like, Steve Nash! And he was like, okay. And then he just laughed at me, and I was like, I will not apologize.
Well, guys, let's move on to the weekend box office. We had Iron Man 2 with $52 million, Robin Hood with $36 million, Letters to Juliet with $13.5 million, Just Right with $8.2 million, How to Train Your Dragon with $5 million, A Nightmare on Elm Street with $4.65 million, Date Night with $3.8 million, Backup Plan with $2.38 million, Furry Vengeance with $2.24 million, and Clash of the Titans with $1.23 million.
Like, wow, what a big drop for Nightmare on Elm Street to go from $91 million last week.
Dropped off from last week. We have Death at a Funeral dropped at 8th, Babies dropped at 9th, and The Losers dropped
Aw,
at
sad day.
10th. All right, let's move on to major movie news. We actually have quite a few major stories this week.
Okay.
Let's start off small. Alan Tudyk joins the Transformers 3 cast.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he was in that.
So did I. I was like, when I was
Alan
actually
Tudyk, okay.
when I actually saw this, I was like, did he end up dropping out?
No,
Like I
he's
couldn't.
in it.
Yeah, no, he. And then I remembered, no, he's in it.
He's
Yep,
in it.
he is in that movie.
Who is he in that?
He is
Couldn't tell.
Malkovich's
Oh,
personal
the
assistant.
assistant.
Yeah. Nah, not good.
Wait, John Malkovich is in
Yeah, no,
Transformers?
I remember him in that.
I remember Patrick Dempsey in it as well.
Yeah.
Shit, that's
Okay. The Judge Dredd reboot is officially greenlit.
Yes.
Written by Alex Garland and
Yes.
will also be shot in 3D. Pete Travis is currently attached to direct. Carl Urban has yet to sign on.
But he will.
Oh,
Yep.
so good.
Oh.
So good. I don't know. So back in 2010, was when the name Alex Garland popped up, did that excite people?
Nope.
Look at him now.
Ex Machina hadn't come out.
Yeah.
I don't even
Dev's
think he
one of the
Annihilation.
biggest things.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Oh, man, Alex
all right.
Garland gets me going. I love that.
Oh,
big
God,
news.
yeah.
Disney sets the dates for Winnie the Pooh for July 15th, 2011. Yeah, we got an animated Winnie the Pooh
yeah.
movie.
We did?
Yep.
Yeah,
we
that's
didn't
right.
get it. Didn't come out here.
Straight to DVD. But
Yep.
I remember when it was advertised to come out here.
Yep. And Reboot Ralph for March 22nd, 2013.
Reboot
Winnie
Ralph,
the Pooh is dated for the same day as the final Harry Potter film.
Oof.
That makes
Yep.
sense as to probably why they didn't release it.
Reboot Ralph, which will eventually be called Wreck-It Ralph, will actually move up to November 2012, pushing the Monsters Inc. sequel to June 2013, and
Good
both will
move.
retain
See, it's funny
their
that,
dates.
because to me, it's funny that like Reboot Ralph would have been a good sequel
Sequel
title.
name, yeah.
It's weird that that was where they were originally going. I think Wreck-It Ralph is so much better.
Yeah, I do too. I think that definitely works.
Yeah.
And lastly, the Cannes Film Festival officially kicks off with Tim Burton as the president of the jury this year. Notable films that premiered were Robin Hood, Another Year, Beautiful, Fair Game, Blue Valentine, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, and You Will Meet a Tall, Dark Stranger. So they're the notable films from this year. Yeah. Anything major jump out for you guys?
I just was shocked that Alan Tudyk was in Transformers 3. Even though sad to say, I've watched that movie more than 3 times.
At this point, had it been like confirmed that it was like Malkovich was in it and
Yep.
Megan Fox wasn't in it?
Yeah,
and
so we talked about
Rosie-
Megan. I'm pretty sure we talked about the Megan Fox one.
Couple of weeks.
That was Red Sonja.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
sorry.
something
Yeah,
else.
at this point,
She-
it's been
okay,
confirmed
right.
she's not in it.
Yeah.
They're shooting it
Okay.
at this point. Like it's mostly been shot.
There
It's
was-
just he had to do probably.
His
He came
little-
on towards the last
few
2
days,
weeks.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of films in the Cannes Film Festival lineup that I'm kind of like, oh, they didn't turn out amazing. But there's some really good ones in there as well, though. So
Like I remember,
Cannes
I
always
think
hit
there
or
was a
miss.
lot of expectation behind Fair Game because I think it was like
Fair
Sean
Game.
Penn.
Yeah,
and
Sean
Naomi
Penn.
Watts,
Yeah,
and
so
that
that's at the
just-
end of the year.
and that just
Yeah.
didn't go anywhere.
The one to me is, still Wall Street Money Never Sleeps had its big premiere at Cannes, but then didn't obviously come out until September.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that was a big thing.
Lost a bit of steam.
Yeah, Robin Hood had its premiere at Cannes. Like that was the
Yeah,
it
right.
opened, it premiered at Cannes and then
opened in
this week. So
It
was
was
big.
a beautiful.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's a great movie. But
That's
Javier- is that the
Inarritu.
Javier Bardem?
Yeah, Javier
Javier
Inarritu.
Bardem,
and Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine. Sorry,
Yep.
that was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Blue Valentine's the other big one.
I can't wait to watch that.
That's at the very, very end of the year.
Oh man, that's
And
a great
then-
movie, but fuck.
Want to feel broken?
And then obviously the yearly tradition of a Woody Allen film being
Yes.
Cannes,
Yeah.
which was You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger, was the Woody Allen film from that year.
That's one I haven't seen.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Neither have
All right, let's move on to Australian release dates. We had Letters to Juliet opened, The Other Man, Robin Hood, and New York, I Love You all opened today.
Did we get New York, I Love You early or super late?
Super late.
Wow.
Super late.
Yeah, I thought that was like a 2009 film.
That's The Other Man.
Oh, The Other Man is
That
if I'm
feels
thinking correctly, that's not the Colin Firth one, is it?
So New York, I Love You is a 2008 romantic comedy anthology.
Yeah.
Okay. It technically it premiered at TIFF in 2008.
I know,
It came out in 2009.
Yeah.
But
So we got it in May of 2010.
And because they've done a few of those since, they've got Berlin, I Love You, Paris, I
Yeah,
Love You.
it's like for some reason, is Natalie Portman in one of those?
I think
she's in Berlin, I Love You.
Natalie Portman's in New York, I Love You. She's in the Miramar one.
Okay.
The Other Man is Liam Neeson, Laura Linney, Antonio Banderas.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great little cast.
Yeah. So that was what opened this week in Australia. So guys, if you want to play along at home, next week we have... we only got 2 movies next week. So we have Shrek Forever After and Mick Gruber. So... I have never seen Mick Gruber.
Oh, dude.
So this could be really
Prep
interesting.
yourself.
This could be very interesting.
But Shrek Forever After has the meme where it's like the kid's like, do the right, daddy. And that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I literally don't know any of the words that just came out of Nick's mouth. So
that's the only bit I remember. From Shrek
the
Forever
only
After.
word I understood there was meme, and I don't actually know what.
Next week is going to be.
I feel like I
Amazing
just blacked
Shrek
out. No.
Next week is going to be a meme filled. Like this is going to McGruber
Are you
and
guys,
fucking
are
Shrek
you guys
Forever
gonna
After.
watch the trilogy in
prior
to it?
I don't know.
Ooh, it's not a
I
bad
don't
idea.
know actually.
I might do a bit of
might.
Shrekathon. Yeah.
I don't know. I it's been forever since I
Yeah,
watched the Shrek
it's
movies.
been
Swamp
10.
Ready.
It's been 10 years since I saw the 4th one.
I've only seen the 4th one.
So-
I didn't see the 4th one in theaters, and I've only ever seen it once.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it once, so it'll pretty much be watching it like for the first time.
I'm so excited to talk about McGruber though with you guys because I've watched that movie countless times.
I
I've
have
seen that
never
movie a
seen
lot.
MacGruber, and I keep hearing. I've heard vastly
Yeah,
different
it
opinions
is
about
one of
that
the,
movie.
it is very much one of those movies that's either it's exactly the comedy that you respond to, or it's just a big
Or you need like 10 shots of alcohol
Have
to
you
get
seen
through
it?
it. No.
Okay.
So
Why,
it'll be-
Nick? Nick.
So it'll
Sorry,
be,
I assume
no,
everyone who loves Cop Out must love McGruber. So
it'll be very interesting to see. I remember liking it, but I think I remember liking the first half more. So it'll be interesting to rewatch it to see if I've grown in any way or not.
I know lines from the movie, so we're in for a good chat next
Oh
week.
god, this could end real badly.
And that's why we only made it to episode 20. 10 years on.
Rest in peace. Hello,
Well, guys.
darkness, my old friend.
Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode of 10 Years On. Next week could be our last one, so make sure you come back and check it out. Guys, down below, we do have our Patreon and the audio versions of these episodes. I'd like to thank my panel and my co-host, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Until then, guys, make sure you do check down in this description below where we do have our social media links, and we also have all of our letterbox where you can see our reviews for all these movies and see what upcoming movies we have. Make sure you also check out on Saturdays, we have our new show.
Get in, losers. We're doing movie brackets.
So make sure you check that one out because
You're welcome.
It's a lot of fun. Until then, guys, my name is Jacob Blunden, and we will see you next time.